branding doesn't necessarily have to be paid ads and paid branding. You simply start and you make it part of your 30-second elevator speech. So you go to a networking meeting and you brand yourself uniquely so that the person you speak with walks away not just like, okay, I know somebody that does personal injury law, but something really unique about them.
Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsal, and I'm excited for this conversation today, not just for the topic, but sometimes there's somebody that you just keep coming across in your interactions online, and you almost feel like you know them, but yet we've never met. So, this is just one of those moments where this person is somebody that I've just been watching his journey, watching his development of what his branding is, what he's talking about, and just have seen that morph over time. And recently, when somebody on my team is doing the recruitment to the podcast, bringing on guests, I said, we need to have this guy. His name is John Rizvi. We need to have him on the show. I actually didn't even remember John's last name. I was like, it's John something, but he's the patent professor. Go and find him online, and you'll be able to get him onto the show. So that's what branding did is, like I just knew what his brand name was, and that's how we're able to find him. So John Rizvi is a registered patent attorney. He started his law firm, The Patent Professor. It's a registered trademark. Don't steal it. With a laptop and a cell phone, operating out of a spare bedroom to a national firm with a team of 60 professionals, generating over $10 million a year in revenues from their own 10,000 square foot headquarters building in Coral Springs. He did this via digital marketing and today helps other lawyers with marketing through his own agency, the law firm Growth Professor. John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, I appreciate you giving of your time to be with our audience and talk about your story. What I like to do at the beginning of a show is really just let you just say in your own words just a little bit about your journey. People want to know, who is this guy, right? Maybe they have the same experience as me and they already know who you are, but there's probably some listeners who never heard of you. They don't know anything about you. How did you become an attorney, become a law firm owner, but go into patent law, pick something, and just give us a little bit of that backstory so we get to know who you are, and then we'll jump into the meat and potatoes of our conversation.
Yeah, of course. And it's funny because then when I get asked this question, I sometimes will say, well, how far back to go? Because going back in time to what got me first interested in patents, like I was that kid that my dream and sole ambition was to take a Rubik's Cube and make it round. So I took it apart with a screwdriver, uh, several of them, pieces everywhere, and I had a sketchbook with drawings of page after page of how I was going to design this. Until one day I went into KB Toys. My mom took me there, and like what I saw on the store shelf crushed me. Like somebody already had a round Rubik's Cube, and they called it the Impossible. And that's when like it felt like a kick in the gut, and I didn't even realize that that was the first instance of even thinking. I wasn't even thinking about law or careers at that point. It wasn't until years later that I became an engineer, and I was always tinkering with things, taking stuff apart. My garage is full of products that I would try to work on. And at that point, I actually had a professor that exposed me to patent law, and he was patenting a system of putting crushed glass into roadways, and that got me started on my journey towards patent law. And but except my dream was to start at the law firm of Fish and Neve, and I don't know if you're familiar with that firm or if you've heard of them,
No.
but in intellectual property circles, they are the probably the most prestigious, well-known patent firm, not just in the U.S. but in the world. They patented Thomas Edison's light bulb, the Wright brothers airplane, and I was at the University of Miami. I went to school in their evening division and was working as an engineer during the day. And the placement director told me that there's no chance that you're going to be hired by this firm. Like they interview at Ivy League schools, Harvard and Yale, and you have to do a summer internship. Well, I sent in my application anyway. And when I talk about this, I talk about it from stage sometimes, and you can tell the audience expects it to have a happy ending. But I got this rejection letter, and it wasn't until I called and really pled my case that things changed. So I ended up starting at this firm, and it was amazing. For like I was working in New York City, learning from the best patent lawyers in the world. But it was 5 years, and I still had not met with an inventor. Like all my work was with corporate MBAs and lawyers, and I felt like I was moving paper around. And I decided to start my own law firm. And that's the beginnings of the patent professor. And as you had said during my intro, like I had no clients or revenue, and I started just out of a spare bedroom in a home, meeting clients at coffee shops and McDonald's or wherever, and that's where we started. And for years, I struggled with growth, and it wasn't until I decided to lean into digital marketing myself and started taking over and having an active role in the content that I was creating, the writing and the videos and all of that, that things changed. And when they changed, it was dramatic. Like we went from the small law firm with basically just me and a laptop to now we have 60 plus team members, 9 lawyers, and are in a 10,000 square foot headquarters here in Coral Springs. And I think the real impetus to that is realizing that you can't brand like everybody else and stand out in the market. So patent lawyers in general are incredibly formal. They're very corporate. You don't see a lot of personality. Uh, and the big change for me was when I decided that there's a big change in the law, that the US patent law went from a first to invent system to first to file. And the typical way lawyers would talk about this is put out contents talking about the statute and the change and how this is the single biggest change in patent law of this century. But instead, I spoke to my team and said, let's put out a fun video, and the theme of it is shut your freaking mouth. And that's exactly what we would do. We dressed up in all black and sunglasses, and we did this fun video. Uh, and I thought everything was going great because that we got some initial reaction, mostly from friends and other lawyers. That was positive. I then decided to lean in further. And in my office, when we got the building and decorating the office, instead of typical like wood, and mahogany and marble, we painted our walls red, and um, and incorporated that everywhere. Our rugs are red in the office. We have gaming chairs that are black and red. Uh, and in fact, when clients receive a patent, when we win a case for them, I was inspired by, and now as we're heading into the holiday season, the movie It's a Wonderful Life, where a bell rings every time an angel gets its wings. So we would ring a bell at the office when a client arrived, and the entire team would create like a human chain and clap to the reception area. And I've got several videos out of that being done. So things are going pretty well. And at that point, suddenly I got an email, and it was like a kick in the gut. It was from a largest client of ours that said, we are a serious corporation with real ideas, and we need a real serious patent attorney. And and we're fired from us fired. So far so good. Again, anyone's trajectory. I wish from the patent professors from zero to now over $10 million in revenue. I wish I could say it was a nice, even upward trajectory, but it wasn't. There were a lot of ups and downs, and that was eye-opening for me because I could either back down and subdue some of the creativity that I really relished, or I could double down and lean into it. And I decided at that point a lot of this content was already out there, so it's hard to change direction and suddenly become, corporate John Rizvi again. So I doubled down instead of being, embarrassed at what makes us different. I leaned into it, and the rejection letter from this prestigious law firm, instead of being ashamed of it, I actually framed it, and I framed the acceptance 5 days later after I called and pled my case to really join them. And when clients come to the office, or even when I speak to them, I tell them, do they want a lawyer that is going to fight hard for them, like he did for himself, and that would plead his case and make the arguments that need to be made? Or would you want somebody that's just like everybody else, like not creative, does brands themselves like every other law firm out there? And when I did that, really magic started happening, and we found our number of patents filed per year just skyrocket, and our firm really began to grow. And that's when I realized that and it's not as if I hadn't leaned into marketing in the past, but when you market without a strong foundation, you don't really uh, grow. You're really burning a lot of marketing spend and spinning your wheels. And I have a graphic that I've designed that I love. It says "Don't forget leg day," and it shows an exaggerated guy with like incredibly built muscles everywhere, except his legs are like two little toothpicks holding up the entire body. And that's how I feel a lot of lawyers are marketing. They go straight to an agency that does not spend any time on the brand, any time on focusing on what's unique about the lawyer, and just immediately begin creating funnels and websites and ads and starting to pour money into to advertising. But you have to build the brand first, and that's what kind of makes us a little bit different. And that's one of my books that I'm really proud of is if you brand it, they will come. And that's something that I've written about extensively, is the importance of lawyers focusing on branding themselves. And it's not just, a lot of people think it's the name and maybe a vanity phone number, but it's a lot more than that. It's focusing on the perception of your prospective clients. Like, how do they view your firm, and are you memorable? Will they even remember who you are?
Yeah, I love I so much of this story I love. There's so much that we can go into, but I think that like when at the end of the day when you look at what you're trying to create, you had this moment where you had to decide, is this something I want to subdue or is this something I want to lean into, right? And you chose to be free, right? You chose to do what you wanted to do. You wanted naturally to do. You were breaking the boundaries of what was allowed at the time in the marketplace, right? And creating a new reality. The truth is that, and I want you to maybe fill in some gaps here because I didn't even know in the green room, you shared with me that firms weren't allowed to have a trade name, way back when, and now not only you're allowed to, but this is how you're differentiating yourself. So I love the whole story. I was thinking like, oh, your tagline should be like the creator's creative attorney, right? Or something like that, right? Like creatives, which are inventors, right? Like they're creators. They want somebody who's creative, right? And that's the whole idea of your brand is that, hey, we're creative. We're not a stuck-up attorney, right? We're going to get the job done for you, but not just get it done for you, but we understand you. We are you. And that's really important, right? People they're attracted to that. And that's probably why when you embraced it and you really leaned into it, and owned it is when you saw this trajectory of patents filed by your firm significantly increase. So, really great story, but I think people should, the takeaway, like when you start thinking about, okay, so how does this work with me, right? Like, I don't want to paint my walls red. So now am I stuck being a stuck up attorney? Like, or is there nothing wrong with, And I don't think that it needs to be the way you did it. I think that it needs to be you show up as you into the marketplace, and the idea of branding is really just determining who you are, right? Um, so give us a little bit of color about just the history and how we got to you can have whatever name you want. But more importantly, I want to dive into, what is a brand and what goes into that and how does somebody come up with that identity? I think I might have just like gleaned the surface of it, but for our listeners who might be a little bit confused about how this works, maybe you can help direct us.
Yeah, so it's funny because I recently I spoke to the in front of the Broward County Bar Association about this exact topic, branding and marketing. And there were a bunch of lawyers in the audience, and I think the one way to define it is to show ex an example of what's not a brand. And I wrote a short jingle, and if you'll go along with it, it's based on a well-known nursery rhyme, and you can finish it for me. Rub-a-dub-dub, three men in a
Tub.
tub. Exactly. So what and I spoke, I said, three men on a board. And I had him repeat after me, three men on a board. Same pose. And you know the lawyer pose that's on almost every billboard out there. The lawyer, everyone, they have their arms crossed like this, and you want to look fierce. You want to look like you're tough, and you put that expression on, but it's always the same. It's always two, three, four, however number of lawyers there are. And this now, there's a time when it was somewhat unique to have women on billboards as lawyers. I mean, but certainly that's not unique anymore. So when you have several lawyers on a billboard, there's nothing differentiating them from anyone else. And you think of some of the most successful lawyers out there that and how they brand, the first thing is you need to be memorable, and it's very hard for the human mind to remember more than two or three people. It's hard to build an identity that quickly. So I'll just, as a test, Morgan and Morgan's the largest personal injury firm in the country, and unless you know someone personally, I'll ask you right now, name one lawyer at Morgan and Morgan other than John Morgan. They've got what, like 1,200 some attorneys.
I
And
can't.
you can't. And I don't know. I think you've had like Mike Morse on your podcast before
Yep.
as well. Incredibly successful lawyer. Same thing. Name a lawyer at Mike Morse's law firm other than Mike Morse. You can't. And you're not the first person. I'm flattered that you didn't actually flattered that you didn't remember my last name and you remembered the patent professor, because to me that tells me my branding is working, because we've actually had, before we formalized the DBA and everything else, we've actually had checks by clients written out to the patent professor. And in the early days, you have to go back to them and say, you've got to write this to John Rizvi, PA, because of how powerful the branding became. So uh, one test, you don't have to paint your walls red. You don't have to like do dancing videos, but you do have to stand apart from your competitors. And one way is to not put multiple lawyers into your branding. It's really hard to stand apart in a crowded market unless there's some uniqueness to you have to put the founder into the law firm. And a lot of lawyers make that mistake. They take the lawyer out of the law firm and their branding, and none of their target audience can identify a single lawyer at the firm. Even the founder, they can't identify them by name. There's a well-known attorney down here in South Florida, like Amanda Demanda, uh, and she's got, gosh, I don't know how many attorneys, but nobody can name anybody except her because she's branded herself in a way that's memorable. And now when you take that foundation that's strong and you pour marketing onto that, that's when you get incredible results. What I was doing in the early days is spending a lot of marketing money before I had built and developed my own brand. And that's what I refer to. I like to say, don't forget leg day in your marketing. Focus on the foundation, build that foundation first. And once it gets some traction, the every single dollar you spend on marketing is going to do that much better.
It's interesting because everything that you're saying makes total sense, right? Like we can understand logically how important branding is. We can understand logically how it attracts the people that you need to attract. It pushes away the people that you shouldn't, that you don't want to have. It then translates into better marketing in every aspect that you're spending on. So your billboards look different. Your ad campaigns that show up in Google look different, right? And you've differentiated yourself in the marketplace, but that is the end result of branding that probably took you years to develop for small firms who are trying to find their identity, who are trying to grow those first steps of growth. uh, They're worrying about how am I going to get clients tomorrow, right? I have so there's a CMO of a nine office PI firm that speaks all around the country at a lot of these different legal events. Her name is Cassidy Lewis. She's a coach in our law firm growth elite coaching program that we help solos grow beyond themselves. She likes to say there's two types of marketing. There's marketing for clients today and there's marketing for clients tomorrow, right? And the idea is that some stuff that we're going to do is going to get us clients right now, and some stuff that we're going to do is going to build something that's going to pay dividends later. SEO is a perfect example. We all know that you got to spend on SEO for 6 to 12 months before you can expect to get a return on it. So that's investing for clients tomorrow. Branding seems like the kind of thing that where I'm investing for clients tomorrow. And I think the biggest conundrum that law firm owners have is trying to find a way to do some of the investing for tomorrow when really I just need clients today. So how do you help people navigate the branding piece of this when they're also trying to just win right now?
Yeah, so you have to do it in conjunction, right? Like a lot of which it's really hard, especially if when we have lawyers that we're trying to help that need more clients, they need revenue. We are never going to recommend just SEO to them. You have to mix it with PPC to get their phone ringing immediately. So branding's the same way. You definitely have to brand, but there's ways to put your brand into ads that also have an immediate call to action. So not all of a lot of our ads are for long-term branding. A lot of our PPC ads and YouTube videos, and some of them end in a call to action, some don't. But you have to have that mixture because if you don't provide as a digital marketing agency, if I don't provide my lawyer clients a way to pay my own bills for the SEO, they're not going to make it 6 to 12 months. They're not going to keep me on board I'm for that length of time. So we mix in PPC ads while the SEO's kicking in, and if they're open to the branding, uh, uh, we'll focus on starting with that foundation, starting with uh, uh, creating something unique and something that's memorable. And it doesn't have to be, there's a lawyer here in South Florida, his name's David Singer, and his slogan became very similar to like Motel Sixes. We'll leave the lights on for you. But that, well, he didn't use those words, but all of his ads showed like a dark building with one office lit. And that was very memorable at that time. This was the late 80s. So there wasn't a ton of, it wasn't as saturated of a market, but everyone knew David Singer because of the ads and how it distinguished him. And it was completely different than the typical ads where lawyers would just talk about, have you been injured in a car accident? Like, no recovery, no fee, like the same thing. So if your branding is, even your PPC ads, if they sound like what every other lawyer's PPC ads sound like, then it's not going to help you with branding. But the world's changed. It's not even going to help you in the short run with PPC because of how competitive things have become. I mean, when I started running my own ads, there were PPC was through like Yahoo was big, and there was not a single patent attorney in the country bidding on patent related terms. So I had to bid 5 cents just to meet their 5 cent minimum bid. But that's not where things are right now. So you have to have an ad that lasts more than just the second they see it in the scroll, something that they'll see and they'll remember. Um, That's part of what we help with, but it's different. Part of what makes it so difficult is that there's no roadmap that's the same for all lawyers. And it really comes down to what are they comfortable with, and it doesn't have to be necessarily outgoing, I guess overly um, uh, what's the that like the extroverted type ads. Like if
Right.
you're a tax attorney and you're crazy about spreadsheets and you're super analytical, lean into that, and your ads can talk about that. You can talk about your attention to like detailed tax code. And for the lawyers that the clients that need you, you're going to attract them. Now, some you're going to repel.
Right.
That's the other part. I don't know if we have time about talk about the importance of repelling some clients because some lawyers are so afraid of and I was as well, especially after we got fired for not being serious enough of a law firm. Some lawyers are afraid of repelling clients, but it's if you look at some of the most successful companies in the world, they've got supporters and raving fans, but they also have people that can't stand them and hate them. And I use the example of Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, for example. Starbucks fans look down on Dunkin' Donuts consumers and consider them, low class and as if
Right.
they have no taste in coffee. But if you go and speak to those that love Dunkin' Donuts and hate Starbucks, they'll tell you that Starbucks to them feels elitist and there's just a bunch of snobs that'll go there. And both of them, these companies coexist and do really well because they people can identify something with them. It's going to attract some consumers. It's going to repel others. Lawyers are afraid of that. So sometimes there's I guess, strength. They feel their strength in numbers. So nobody wants to stand out as the face of the brand because you are going to have haters. So they feel if instead of being out there all alone, let's get the three partners on a billboard. And now, guys, we're all in this together and we'll
Right.
go up there and we'll pose together. We'll be in all the commercials together. And then what happens? Nobody remembers because three lawyers, let's face it, three guys in suits pretty much look the same on all billboards.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing is people like worried about diversity and stuff like that. So we want to cater to everybody. So let's get an African American lawyer on there. Let's get a woman on there. Then we start, this way we've got every color and every sex and now we cater to everybody. But it's true. Like you have to be able to repel just as much as you're able to attract. And it's also healthy in the marketplace, right? Like nobody thinks that they're going to be owning 100% of the marketplace. So why do we try to? Like why do we act like we want to? The reality is that competition is healthy. It's good. It's good for you somebody else to be there to take the pain in the ass clients, right?
Right.
So we
And maybe it's a tiny, tiny, tiny niche, but you can own that niche. Maybe it's my work as a patent attorney has me more exposed to this because you see clients that are inventing things for a tiny, tiny segment of the market that's and where a lot of lawyers are thinking, well, that's too small. There's never going to be enough. So, have a client say an idea for a glue for wigs that is particularly directed towards cancer patients who are undergoing chemotherapy. So you look at that and they have different their allergies and their skin's more sensitive. But if you look at the market, now that product has to find a cancer patient that has lost their hair or is losing their hair that wants to wear a wig and that's a potential candidate for this hair adhesive. That's a tiny market, but if it's if you don't have a humongous budget, not everybody's going to start out with a Morgan and Morgan budget.
right.
Then grow from that niche and you can grow your practice that way. There's I think a marketing study. I can't even remember the book, but somebody had a product like an ebook teach your parrot to speak in 30 days and they sold it for $9 and I don't know how many millions of dollars they made from it but it's incredible because all of their ads, everything was directed towards uh, not all pets. It's not like training and for anything else, teach a parrot to speak in 30 days. And if you were
Right.
somebody that wanted to teach a parrot to speak and that 30 days attracted you and $9 is a low price point, bingo. That's key. So that might be, and there's niches within practice areas. There might be some that, for example, in the patenting field, some people need to be patent pending quickly. So if you believe you're the firm that can do that, then lean into that and be known as the law firm that the patent firm that can get the patent filed in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever is the unique in your market.
Yeah, I love it. I love all of that. I have one more question, and then I want to close it up because we're just about out of time. Um, when is somebody big enough to be thinking about this? Right? Like, is this something that we should be thinking about when we first open up our law firm as a solo? Is this something that, hey, you've got to be at a couple of $1 million before you start worrying about your branding and how you're differentiating yourself in the marketplace? Is there a right time for a law firm owner to be thinking about this?
Yeah. Oh, I wish I had thought about this before I even left the large law firm. Like I think it's in fact the sooner you start, the better. Branding doesn't necessarily have to be paid ads and paid branding. You simply start and you make it part of your 30-second elevator speech. So you go to a networking meeting and you brand yourself uniquely so that the person you speak with walks away not just like, okay, I know somebody that does personal injury law, but something really unique about them. And it could be different when you're tiny and you're small. It can be, and say you answer all your client calls yourself on your cell phone. Lean into that and use that. And sometimes you grow. Like one of the things that makes our firm unique is that we one of the downsides, if we didn't get into this and might not have enough time, maybe cover this separately. But one thing I get asked a lot is, John, if you're the one people think of when they think of the patent professor, and if Mike Morse is who they think of and John Morgan, how do you stop prospective clients from insisting that the meetings take place with you? And I face that a lot. Like I want to meet with John Rizvi. So instead of your size and your success being cut against you and clients insisting, you tell them that one of the reasons we have the track record we have at the patent office is that John's extremely selective about the cases that we take on and the ideas we protect. And there's no possible way for him to review them all. Uh, so he has to have his team review the initial ideas and they screen for him. So you use that to your advantage. When you get larger, you would switch. But certainly at the beginning, anything for a solo that a solo considers to be a negative, I believe can be positioned as a positive. And for a lot of clients, it's going to attract them, prospective clients. They love the fact that there's an approachable attorney, that when there's questions, if they don't have layers of paralegals and staff in between, that can be their differentiating point. You have questions about your case. I'm not going to turn you over to a secretary or paralegal. I will assist you myself.
Awesome. Yeah, love that. Love that context. And yeah, that question is something that even comes up in our group coaching program when somebody's bringing on an attorney into their firm for the first time. It happens a lot where they're like, well, how do I convince somebody that this person is just as good as me or can handle the work when they know that I'm the firm owner? And yeah, we can totally dive into that as a separate topic. This has been really great. I love the whole concept of creating this unique brand and having it be on all facets of your marketing. And I mean, I honestly, I think the biggest challenge is that people don't think of themselves as being creative. And so they get stuck in, okay, this is a great concept, but what's my brand? How do I create my brand? And I think that's something that we remains to be answered, I think, for people to just have some sort of approach that they can use to do it. And maybe it's just read your book, right? We'll link that book up in the show notes. When we wrap up an episode, I leave with two questions. I'm going to keep this one as well, even though we're out of time. We'll ask the questions anyway. One parting piece of advice or wisdom you want to share with our audience, and number two, how can people learn more about you, get in touch with you, interact with your brand, whatever the right place to send them is if somebody really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, yeah, so the first one's easy. I think the parting piece of advice would, and it seems almost cliche, but be yourself. And I guess to add to that, be yourself despite your fear of what it's going to reveal. And I started at a firm where uh, they were so formal you were required to wear your jacket in the hallways. So for me, it was a huge leap to start showing personality. And it wasn't until I did that and leaned into that, and there was a lot of fear. I can't say I wasn't afraid, but I would say be yourself despite the fear as the parting piece of advice. And as far as anyone that's interested, my digital marketing agency is also branded similar to the patent professor. It's the law firm growth professor, and we offer digital marketing, but particularly focusing on building the brand. So if you go to the law firm growth professor, you can find me, or the patent professor, my law firm, and our handles are the same across all social media platforms.
Yeah, we'll make sure to link that all up in the show notes for you. So if you're out driving or anything that you're doing while listening to this episode, we got you covered. It's in the description of your podcast player. It's also available at profitwithlaw.com. Really love this conversation, John, and we'll definitely be sure to have you back to continue this conversation in a future episode because I'm sure that there's a lot that we did not cover. We'll also link up your book in the show notes as well. Folks, we're here every single Thursday with a brand new episode. Make sure you hit the subscribe button in your podcast player or on the YouTube channel where you're watching this video so that you get notified when we release a new episode. And we're just going to keep bringing you amazing people like John to share with you. And honestly, if you just take one thing that you heard today and implement that into your business, and you keep doing that every time that we have somebody here and we share an episode with you, you cannot go wrong, right? Like you're going to get traction, you're going to create success because you're implementing. So much of what we do, we just sit there and we think about, oh, that's a great idea, and then we move on. And if you just get used to taking action and just become an action taker and start implementing some of these things, that's going to make a big difference. Here we talked about a ton about branding, and it doesn't need to be something off the wall. It could be something simple, just something unique that makes you you, and that alone, like the tax attorney, right? Like lean into the fact that you need a pocket protector in order to be able to take a good position on your tax situation, and then all of a sudden that becomes the thing that people remember and they think about when they're looking at you. So really good stuff today, and looking forward to our next episode next Thursday. And we'll see you then. Bye for now.